I'd like to know a bit about the crew here. So who of you are working mainly in design? Raise your hand. Okay, that was not surprising. How many of you are working with business or developing business? About half maybe. How about engineering, development of stuff? Where are all the engineers? Only few. Another question, how many are you working in industrial companies? Oh, there's maybe 10, 15. That's good. I will be sharing a bit about experiences in and transforming an industrial company to a digital industrial company by the means of developing new services and offering to our customers, and what have been the different challenges during there and what we tried out and where are we right now. Someone please give me a number between 5 and 10. 7. So please give me 7 reasons or 7 things that are challenging in getting new business within an existing organization. I'll keep count. Culture. So culture might not be matching. What else? Time. Sorry? Yes, lack of time, I guess. Yes, what else? Politics. Yeah, so you need to kind of do your politics to get the idea forward in the organization. What else? Yeah, you need money. You don't mean money. What do you mean? Investment. What kind of investment? Putting their heart into the matter, having the people work on that, so that's the time. Of course, some resources and maybe some money somewhere there, I thought. Yeah, good. So that's 4. 3 more. Yeah, so if you're trying to kind of get new business, it might be that the revenues are coming a bit later. And if you're just looking at the revenue, it looks really bad for the first year or so on. So you need to measure in maybe in a different fashion. 2 more. Bureaucracy. So getting through the hoops and getting the decisions and getting the investment and resourcing. 1 more. People's competencies, so it might require totally different type of skills that the organization didn't have. Good, let's take a look. I would say that most of those are touched in here. First, a bit about Cargotec for those who don't know. Here's stuff that we are producing. So we are having different kind of an equipment for logistics industry. We have these containers that we try to move in the ports and terminals. We have stuff for that. They are lashed and put on top of large container vessels. We secure them and have them in place on the rough seas. And also when stuff is delivered on the supermarkets and so on, we have the tail lifts and other type of load handling equipment to get stuff to where it's needed. So quite equipment centric. And we consist of several businesses that have been collected throughout the years, that have been individually kind of building a really, really good business, selling equipment earlier. And we have set out a target to become a global leader in intelligent cargo handling. And intelligence here means that it's more than just the machine, so that we are able to take the context into consideration. The biggest change, of course, technology-wise, is that earlier when we sold an equipment, it was out of our hands. It was up for the customer to use in whatever way they did, and we really didn't know even how it's used. But now, with IoT and technology, we can be there at the moment of value creation for the customers. When they are using it in part of their larger operations, we can help them operate their whole operations better, not just focus on the equipment. So moving past from the equipment to the larger cargo handling and the whole efficiency of the logistics flow. And I must say that the industry, I'll have a next slide on that one, is far from optimal. There's a few different targets that we have on that. I'll be mostly talking about maybe the customer centricity, digitalization, and possibly services. So customers are extremely important. We need to understand them better. Of course, digitalization is enabling a lot of things. And services is the way of how we deliver value in the future. So not just selling an equipment and giving that to the customer, but through different type of services and helping the customer to operate. So, the potential for our company As I mentioned, we've been doing stuff in the equipment space. That's very mature market. So we are number one, number two in most of the equipment categories that we're selling. But there has been some studies about how efficient the different areas of the logistics chain are. And for example, on the ports, and when vessels are coming to ports, there's still faxes being sent out 2 weeks in advance by the captain of the ship to the terminal that, hey, here's my unloading plan. Please take a look at it and give any adjustments on that one. They send the fax back, and well, there's quite a lot of moving parts. And also within the ocean carrying route, so how to get stuff from port to another, there's a lot of different inefficiencies there. So there's been, I think it's about half of the cost of transportation is in different kind of paper shuffling, getting information flow working, and half is physically moving the container. When you take something from Japan, Tokyo to Finland, there's maybe 25 different documents, over a dozen of different parties that are involved in getting the stuff there. I'm amazed still how stuff gets where they're supposed to. But there's a lot of inefficiencies. So 17 billion roughly in the terminal yards and 27 in the ocean routes. So when I joined Cargotec 3 years ago, people were doing a lot of stuff in digitalization. They were connecting equipment, but maybe the plan wasn't there, how we gonna make money. When I interviewed a lot of people, there were plenty of ideas, but one other thing that I noticed is that people said, yeah, we've been doing this for 2 years, it's a great idea. And I'd ask, okay, what have you really done? Well, it's a great idea, you know. We're trying to find the sponsor to kind of solve this and get the go-ahead. So I don't know how this is for you, but it seems that there's a lot of ideas that are out there that are in some mode of lack of investing or starvation. So one opportunity, a customer need or something is discovered, but then it might take 1.5, 2 years before something really starts happening. So there's maybe 1 or 2 discussions here with some of the customers or internally and so on. Somebody makes a business case here, and then somebody makes a decision, okay, let's now make a project. And then we crunch it in 6 months or a year. But the whole time from when we got the opportunity, when we identified the opportunity to when we get it out, that might take 2.5 years. Where do you think it would be easier to take some time off, meaning increase speed from the crunch here at the end or here in the beginning? If this took 1.5, 2 years, could you maybe do the decision of go, no go already in a year? Maybe in 3 months? Yes, but you need to work on that one. And it requires some sort of investing. There were a lot of these things. I'll give you an example later. But this is important, of course, because if something delayed from the market, if we come 1 or 2 years later, we lose the 2 years worth of revenue growth. We might have smaller peak because we're late to the market. Somebody else was already there. So speed in innovation and new businesses is of course important. Of course, timing is also important, but you might be able to kind of, if you really focused and worked on a concept and validated it in a quick fashion, you might make sense, okay, let's put it in a freezer for a while. Then you don't even use any extra kind of thinking power to kind of, oh, this is a great idea, but we're not doing anything about that. You can say it's in a freezer. Let's look it back in a year's time. So this has a big impact on revenue. So when I looked at this, there were a few things that we wanted to change. One was that we wanted to change from the inside out incremental development, which all of the equipment development was more or less. We had the equipment already. We made it to lift a bit more of like 500 kilograms more or so on. to having the customer value, customer needs, what they're really needing, their operations drive our development. And change, of course, from engineering, we were really an engineering company. If I had done this in the beginning, 90% of people would have been engineers. From designing the technical solution, from validating the desirability, viability, and opportunity, whether that really exists, whether it's something that we really want to pursue. And of course, we had big programs. Can we do some things that we do quickly and small, and then we start scale them up and put more money behind them when we have validated the opportunity and know that there's customers who are willing to pay for that. And a lot of our development was very close to the core, meaning that they were improving our equipment. But as I mentioned, there was a lot of opportunities that were not something that we had done before, but close to our organization, our boundaries and areas where we worked. So can we move on to a continuous exploration of these opportunities and place small bets so that we can see whether they work and scale them up? So this is what we wanted to change, or this was our hypothesis, that this would be better. So it's not an easy journey. You might have seen this as a design picture also, but the same applies for organizational change. So you're somewhere and you want to go somewhere else. So we had to experiment also within our organization, how to get there, how to get towards the idea that we had. To be honest, currently we are maybe here. So we're not yet there. So I'll be just sharing the experiences, what we've done and what has worked and what hasn't. So one of the ideas that we had, okay, so if there was a big delays in the beginning, kind of getting to the decision point of getting to, let's execute on this, we had an idea that let's create an acceleration program to take the ideas that we already have in the pipeline, not maybe take new ideas, because we had plenty of ideas, but take those ideas that we have and really validate them in a quick program. So instead of having that 1.5 years, let's crunch that into 10 weeks. And in fact, during the 10 weeks, much more than we ever would have done in the 1.5 years to validate the business opportunity. So we wanted to reduce the time from the idea to getting the market somehow, getting to the market with that idea. Of course, we had to scope this somewhere, and we scoped it on the validation of the business concept. So at the end, we would have an quite well-rounded validation of the opportunity from the customer's point of view. It's desirable, it's feasible, it's viable, and then we have a decision on whether we're going to build it or not. And here's the first experiment. We did the whole shebang with Idean, so they were our partner in kind of facilitating the program and helped the different teams that were working on this by their service design competences. So we took 17 candidates, already ideas in the organization. So nothing new, but take those ones that we already have somehow ideated, and selected 5 of them to a program that had quite a tough timeline to get to the end. And we had a decision of go, no go, and these were presented also for our executive board. So in the process itself, you can see this is a lot of from service design. So we explored and validated the problem. We put our teams to meet with our customers. Many of our engineers were really horrified of going to meet customers without a solution, but just to interview them to understand their problems. But many came back saying, like Stefan Onkenhout, who was one of the leaders for one of the cases there, that he was already, when he joined the program, ready to start building, but when he went to the customers, he noticed that, well, they would have built something that nobody would have wanted. So found extremely valuable to kind of list the assumptions, all of the assumptions of the customer's problem, and go and really validate them with different kind of mechanisms, observations, interviews and such. Second phase was, of course, going more into the solution. If we validated and got to an important customer need, so what can we do? What are the different options for and alternatives for the solution? What we can build together or with our customers or partners? And then, of course, to validate also the business side. As you can see, these phases are not strict. So we started thinking about the business market opportunity already, of course, quite early, because that's a scoping exercise. It might not make sense to focus on something something if you already know that it's too small to make any decisions in the organization. But there are quite a lot of activities and different workshops on during the way. We built a support organization for this. So there was the teams, there was a concept owner and a team around that, cross-organizational, cross-functional, having different disciplines, different departments coming in. And so that was the team. We had, each of the teams had a coach, somebody who was keen on service design or business design, helping the team throughout the process. And also we had a mentor from inside our own organization, so somebody who had been doing similar kind of things earlier, a sparring partner of sorts. And of course, a big number of different experts, so market expertise and so on, because the teams don't live in a bubble and they might not be able to get all of the information within the 10 weeks. So we had external and internal different experts that were supporting the teams on their journey. Here's a picture of the first team. Of course, we built out and had some workshops. Most of our people, by the way, are distributed around the world, so we had to bring them together on these workshops. They pitched to each other, get the cross-pollination going over the different cases, and of course, getting tough questions from others. And of course, having every 2 or 3 weeks, there was a presentation where they had to show where they are, so it creates a kind of a time pressure and feeling of wanting to show off. And of course, we celebrated with some trophies throughout the way. So the end result of these programs, we run few. A lot of customers interviewed during the programs, something that might not have happened before. We looked at how much the teams considered that they saved in time of, you saw the timeline, from time to market from the idea. Roughly 60 months they estimated that we got from crunching this and getting to a decision point fast, rather than giving it in the slow momentum of other stuff. This is a big amount of money. 60, if you have 1 million a year, 10 million a year revenue coming out from this, that's what, 5 years? That's 50 million would be saved, new revenue coming up earlier if you're able to do that. A lot of assumptions were tested, validated, customer problems. We found out much more than we were thinking about that we would find out. Several concepts were explored, killed, and pivoted, so that's also the benefit of course, doing a crunch mode where you do things fast. And a lot of prototypes and business models. So what we wanted to change, to get, these were the hypotheses, so this was an experiment, as I mentioned. One assumption was that if we do this kind of a crunch mode, we're able to get to revenue faster, within a year of the concepts. That was kind of validated. Now it's been a few years. We can say that it was around the 1 year, 1.5 year mark from the concepts that got forward that they started generating revenue. So not as fast as I thought, but still much faster than the old way. The reduction in time to market, so there was quite a lot of on that one. Outside in development would be valuable. Both the customers said that, why haven't you been here before asking about our problems? And the teams said that, hey, this was great. We learned so much more from our customers than we ever could have imagined. Having the systematic validation process, so meaning that writing open your assumption and then going to design a test, validate that, would learn to a lot of learnings. Well, you saw the pivoting and killing and so on. Much of that happened. Also, one assumption was that if we go through this and we have a pitch deck at the end, that's a traditional startup pitch deck with all of the problem, solution, market, what you need and so on, that it's easier for our business areas to make decisions around this. So this is from the first project, so several of them where it was easier, but still not as easy as I would have hoped for the businesses to make decisions. On the executive level, they made a decision, yeah, let's do this, but then 3 months of crickets, trying to kind of find like who's gonna own this, who's taking the responsibility and so on. So even with a good program, you need to kind of ensure that the supporting organization, other parts are there. Feedback from the teams, yeah, they loved it. So the next step, of course, after that, you run a great experiment, you get some learnings, and you want to scale it. So same as here, internal change management, you need to start thinking about how to systematize. And the Emerging Business Acceleration Program was only on the validate concept area. And as I mentioned, there was a lot of challenges still going in the building it, taking it to the market, selling it. I would say that it's even much more work than just creating the concept. So what do you need? How do you make the transition from the validation to execution? How do you help that one? And this is the stage that we've been the last 1.5 years, still not resolved. There's quite a lot of things if we want to reach our targets. So there's a few targets that are, we've voiced out on the market, so the revenue and things from these new businesses. Here's all of the stuff that needs to be solved from the organization point of view. You need to have a governance for the opportunities. You need to have processes. These are the boring stuff, right? But somehow within a scope of a large organization, you need to make the path clear for those, like where are the decisions that we're going to make? How do we get the investment, the resourcing? How do we increase the competences that are there? So because most of this, for example, validating is still new. Of course, a program helps, but it's not solving it totally. How do you link to partnerships and so on? So this is where we are. One thing that we've done recently is we created some clarity. We have 23 or so business units. We created a separate stage gate model, sort of, to clarify how decisions are made within the emerging businesses. So what are the different stages that things need to go through? So you need to discover, you need to create the concept, you need to, from concept to create the first version of the product and validate that with your customers and check if they're really willing to pay. Then you want to scale it or take it to the markets and so on. And there are different things that you need to do in this. And this is not the same as the traditional project models that we've had so far. Oh, I like the mood lighting. Yeah, the killer. Oh, there's, I don't know what's happening. But yeah, there's quite a lot of things. So creating clarity is extremely important. And of course, you need to also have a way of showing that, okay, here's the decision points. We take things fast here, but we also kill stuff fast in different stages. And as I mentioned earlier, getting from small bets. So you make small bets here, but you increase the bet size as you get the validations. This is from Erik Ries, The Startup Way, which I, by the way, recommend. Really good book about large-scale organizational transformation, how to transform an industrial company into an entrepreneurial company. Also, we need to provide some ways for the teams to have a realistic progress estimate for themselves, so they know where they are. Because when the first our cases were taken forward, they didn't know where they were. They thought that we are ready to launch. But they were very far. They didn't even, for example, have validated the business problem. So having different kind of things like innovation accounting, which is accounting that you can do for new projects when the traditional accounting metrics like revenue, profit, and so on, they are not there yet. So you need to provide them some other ways of seeing are they doing the right things. And of course, you need to somehow visualize what the stuff you have in the pipeline. So we're looking, we created a leveling for the different cases, so they self-evaluate where they are. And we want to see from the portfolio if each of these are one of our innovation or new business development cases. We track the speed of stuff, how quickly things are moving here. So we can take a look at the picture 3 months earlier and see have these moved. And that's the success of our portfolio and the support that we are giving. And of course, you also need to manage this. This might be small, so if here's the business potential, is there anything that we can do to increase the business potential? If we have here the most important business opportunities for us, how can we speed them up? What do we need to throw them? What are the impediments there that are causing them to maybe go slow? Can we get them faster onto the markets? Summary. So first of all, new business and profits don't magically come from connecting your machines or data. You need to do a lot of work with your customers. The new way will have a lot of challenges. Decision making is not clear. They are not used to making the, decisions about stuff where the revenue will be coming in 2 or 3 years. It will be always competing with the day-to-day business urgencies, so you need to create a way for that. I can also say that the ideas and opportunities is not the problem. It's about how to act on them, how to create that pipeline and the path through the organization. So, and this is extremely important. Not single one of those cases where I like, hey, here's a great idea for somebody else. None of these opportunities really flew, but the ones that have been going forward are those where there's a passionate person from our organization who's seen the light or talked with the customers and then wanting to take that further. And we also, this is a conscious decision, we didn't want to create an innovation hub or lab separate from our business, but integrate it into our businesses because that's where most of our opportunities are. And you need to have the way to measure progress. And of course, well, people will learn when they participate here, but of course, growing people and celebrating with them all of the small steps, because taking something to the market might take 2 years, so you need to celebrate on the way to keep the momentum and the people passionate. Thank you.